All right, it's time. Let's make some football predictions.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage daily every single day. And now, especially with the football season starting just later this week. That's right. We are officially in football mode. You just know that the content's going to be amped up more and more. You might be getting 2 episodes per day, especially if we have some breaking news or some things to talk about. But I feel like I've delayed this long enough. Today, I'm going to take a couple minutes and we're going to talk about my actual football predictions. So we're going to get to that right after this. I'll be honest, I don't know what's taking me so long to come out with this predictions episode. I feel like usually I do this about a week or maybe even 2 weeks before the actual season starts. But we all know the season literally starts on Friday. That's right, Friday. I believe 6 or 6:30, we're going to have kickoff against Western Illinois. And truthfully told, I think the reason it took me so long to come up with my win prediction record was I genuinely just didn't know. And I don't even know what number I'm going to ultimately give by the time I'm done speaking. The reason being is when the summer first started, I was super optimistic, 10-2. You're returning so many starters. I believe at the time it was like 17 to 18 starters, projected starters. At least from the bowl game, coming back. A schedule that didn't look too tough. Obviously, you're avoiding some of the big juggernauts in the Big Ten Conference. And then Big Ten Media Days happened. And my everydayers in here know I talked to a lot of national people. And a lot of these national folks, well, they were all of a sudden going beyond my 10-win prediction and going with 11 wins. I got a bunch of 10 wins and some 9 wins. And for some reason, that kind of set me back because I'm usually the one pushing the Illini narrative. I'm the guy who's like, hey, what about us? You should actually also pay attention to this about the Illini. But now, seemingly, other people were already sold. And it was a simple matter of me trying to come to terms with what I thought the reality of this Illini football team is. And so I waited until I felt like I got a better feel. I waited until maybe, an injury or something, knock on wood, would have happened. But here I am. The season's this week. I've got to knock something out, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'll just start off and say, let's just get off what I think is going to be the easier wins, and then we're going to total it that way. I think Illinois beats Western Illinois. I think Illinois obviously beats Western Michigan. I wish I didn't say obviously. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. I think Illinois beats Purdue. Purdue is getting closer. And obviously that game last year was a lot closer than we would want it to have been. But they're still rebuilding. Barry Odom, we'll see how he does down the road. And I don't like the fact that this game is at Ross-Ade Stadium. But I still think that this is a game that Illinois right now, if they are the team that we think they are, should be able to beat. Next win that I think goes without saying is Rutgers. I like if it was in New Jersey, that's one thing. And sure, that's a game that we escaped with last season. But this game is at Memorial Stadium. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And quite honestly, I do feel good about beating Maryland and Northwestern. Okay, Maryland is at home. Northwestern's at home. So right off the bat, I'm at 6 wins. And quite honestly, that's not a bad ceiling. That's not a bad floor. That's been the ceiling of these Illini teams in the past. And I'm sitting here right now saying I feel very confident that this team is going to hit 6 wins. But that's not the expectation anymore. Now, from here on out, hopefully from here on out, the expectation is higher. FanDuel, sponsor of the show, has the over-under at 8.5. And so that's pretty lofty because I'm taking a look at the rest of the schedule. And while some of you may say, a game like Wisconsin is an easy win, Wisconsin at that point might be reeling, right? And so you might just automatically say, yeah, that's a victory. I don't know if I'm 100% there. I think I'm there. But with the fact that Wisconsin game is at the end of the season, and at that point, depending on what the vibes are in that locker room, Wisconsin, we all know, has got one of the toughest schedules in all of college football. And so if those players have not given up on Luke Fickell at that point, if they're struggling, well, then quite honestly, the opposite might be happening. They might feel inspired to play for Luke Fickell and try to quote unquote save his job. I don't think his job is really in jeopardy, at least from the people I talk to that are inside the Wisconsin program. But that doesn't mean the media is not going to tell you that it is. And that narrative is going to come out. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on that Wisconsin game. I am going to decide that I do think they ultimately win that game. So I'm going to check that off as a win. But I'm not as confident as a lot of the Illini fans I've seen online. I think that's a game that you're absolutely going to have to worry about, especially because that schedule, let's be honest, at the end of the season gets kind of easy, gets kind of lax. And so that Wisconsin game in some ways might just be a test for Bret Bielema and this coaching staff to make sure the players are still paying attention and ready for the moment each and every game. So having said that, now I'm at 7 wins with games I have not decided on between, let's just get this out of the way. Illinois does not beat Ohio State. Okay, I'm just going to say that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think that's a very controversial opinion. I will be at the game, by the way. So if you're going to be at the game, definitely let me know in the comment section. Maybe we'll do some sort of meetup. But Illinois is not going to beat Ohio State. And so I come back right now. I still not have decided what Illinois is going to do against USC, Indiana, Duke, and Washington. Okay, so I still have, 5 games left. We're at 7 wins so far. Can I find 2 more wins in that 5? I will tell you, they lose to Ohio State. My personal opinion is the ceiling of this football team is 10-2. That's the ceiling, best case scenario. Why? Maybe this is just the way I think. If a college football team goes 11-1 in the Big Ten Conference or the SEC, I want to think of that team as elite. That's got to have elite players on both sides of the football, guys you might mistake for superstars. I think this Illinois football team is a very good one. I really do. And I think this Illinois football team has a lot of very good football players on it. But I don't think it's an elite team. I don't think it's going to be competing for a national championship like teams that finish 11-1 in the Big Ten or SEC should. So I'm getting that right off the bat. Ohio State's going to be a loss. And one I've always had a bad feeling about, and my everydayers in here will know which game I'm talking about, is Washington. I really don't like that matchup. It comes right after the bye week. It comes after the Ohio State game. Then we have a bye week. Then we travel to Husky Stadium. This is just going to be a brand new experience. Obviously, Washington's a newcomer to the Big Ten Conference. I just don't feel good about that game. And so if I know I'm going to chalk off a second loss on the schedule, for me, between the ones available, Indiana, Duke, USC, and Washington, I think Washington is the one I feel least optimistic about winning. So right off the bat, those are the 2 losses. Now, we come back to the early part of the season. I know I'm being very confusing about this, but I'm trying to go in order of how confident I feel they're going to win these games. Duke, I think, is going to be a much closer matchup than most people are giving it credit for. I believe I saw Illinois right now, as of this recording at least, was a 2.5-point favorite on the road. And you have to keep in mind what Manny Diaz has done with that Duke team. He's basically sustained what the predecessor has had over there. You know the defense is going to be very, very good. And I just read an article that they paid $4 million for their quarterback. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's $4 million. That you would think that buys you some high-quality players. But I think Illinois has the advantage with the game being so early in the season, with Illinois having returned so many players. And quite honestly, Illinois is going to know how important that game is, because that game is going to eventually, hopefully, set up that big-time matchup in week 4. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk week 2 up as a victory for the Illini. Next up, the next toss-up, I guess you can say, is Indiana. If there's one game I want to win on the schedule this year, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be shy about it. it's the Indiana game. The way that Hoosiers fans and Illini fans have been going back and forth online all summer long. Obviously, all of us Illini fans, we wish we had one crack at the Hoosiers last year. We didn't, but we have a chance this year. Now, we know Indiana's going to go into that game with a very cupcake soft schedule. We know Illinois is going to hopefully be 3-0 at that point, but they're going to be a little bit more battle-tested with that game against Duke. Ultimately, I do think Illinois does come out victorious in that game. I think it's going to be a very good matchup. I think I'm going to be a lot more nervous about that game than I'm letting on. But the fact that Indiana at that point, obviously they have a very good new quarterback, but he hasn't been tested at that point. And I know, I genuinely feel like Bret Bielema and the coaching staff know how important that Indiana game is right now on that schedule. Indiana and Illinois are essentially fighting for the same spot in that Big Ten conference, like just in the second tier, right below the Blue Bloods. Indiana and Illinois are both kind of the new guys, and they both understand, look, they're recruiting the same players. So I know Kurt's going to get ready for that game. I know Brett's going to get ready for that game. I think Illinois eventually does succeed, and they beat the Hoosiers. So here we are. There's only one game left. It's simply USC. A lot of people are discounting USC. USC's got a lot of talent on that side of the field. And I know their coaching seems to have been lacking when it comes to what Lincoln Riley, at least with the expectations that he came with. But it's still USC. It's still going to be a primetime matchup. And quite honestly, the reason I'm going to chalk this one off as a loss is because USC, because they've got so much talent on their side of the field. Illinois last year was a 10-2 win team, but a lot of those wins were coin flip games that, let's be honest, Rutgers, when you think of Rutgers, when you think of Purdue, you understand how lucky you got in that they won those games. I think Illinois is going to lose one game they shouldn't lose. Ohio State, they shouldn't win. Washington, I think by the time it's time for kickoff, is going to be close to a coin flip type of game, maybe a spread of 3 points. I think a lot of people are going to have Illinois favored to win USC, and I think USC is the one game that most people are going to be a little surprised that the Trojans take. And I know it's going to hurt because that game is at home. I hope I'm wrong. But now that I'm finishing up this segment, 9-3 seems about right. I wanted to get to double figures. I really do. I don't think it's an 11-win team. I just don't know if the elite players are there. I think it could be a 10-win team. But as I sit here, and if I had to guess, is Illinois closer to an 11-win team or a 7-win team? Don't get mad at me, but I actually probably think I would rather put money on being a 7-win team just because of those wins last year that, let's just be honest, the ball bounced our way. Took me a while to come up with that segment because, again, as I was recording, I just wasn't sure in what direction I was going to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Caleb Williams, I see you. Crown your champion in August. That's right. Super Bears, Super Bowls. Or parlay your division winner, dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, the prediction is in. 9-3 from Locked On Illini. Stamp it. It's ready to go. I wanted some outside opinion because I know 9-3 might not be what you guys are looking for. I know I've heard much loftier predictions, especially in the Discord, in some of the community. So I wanted to bring on what, not necessarily a hype Illini fan. I wanted someone whose opinion I absolutely trust. And quite honestly, an opinion whose I've been listening to for years on podcasts before I got my very own. And that is who is now a repeat guest on the show, Big Kurt from the Eyes on Big podcast. Kurt, thank you again for coming back on.
Hey, Sonny, thanks for having me. It was a great time last time, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. All right, so Kurt, I think you heard most of that first segment. Ultimately, I've got them going at 9-3. Your prediction, I think it's been out long enough. We can spoil it now. It was 8-4. If this team finished 8-4 or 9-3, do you think the fan base as a whole would be disappointed, especially with all the hype that has come on this Illini train? I feel like over the last month.
So the way I look at it is I do think the younger Illini crowd would be disappointed because they haven't had the experience that you and I have had. We kind of know who we are and where we fall in the pecking order of college football historically. So I know how hard it is for us to get to a 10-win season. And you mentioned it in the previous segment that the ball bounced our way a lot last year. Could have gone much differently than the final record there. So I think the young people would be disappointed with that. I think older crowd like myself, it depends what the 8-4 season looks like. I predicted 8-4. It kind of depends. Like I might have a bad taste in my mouth depending who we lost to and when we lost to them.
Okay, so when you did your 8-4, who are your 4 losses to?
Okay, 4 losses are I had us losing to Ohio State. And by the way, listening to you in the previous segment, it was almost like you were reading my mind. You were thinking most of the same things that I'm thinking. We just ended up at a little bit different place. But yeah, I don't think we beat Ohio State. I agree with you. I hate that Washington game. As soon as I looked at that, I said, that's a loss. So I feel like those 2. And then you mentioned about 5 games that were kind of toss-ups. Mm-hmm. Totally agree. And so my question is, how many of those toss-ups do we win? I think we win 3 out of the 5. So I was losing to at Duke, and I have us dropping a heartbreaker at Wisconsin late in the year.
Oh, it's okay. So you know what? I think a lot of people would be surprised. I actually also said in that last segment that, I think people are overlooking that Wisconsin game slightly. But it's still a strong program. And again, we don't know what the mindset is going to be there at that point. Sure, it could be, Bret Bielema and the Illini program essentially killing the career of another Wisconsin coach, or it could be the exact opposite, especially if the Badgers do show some fire, under Luke Fickell and essentially because again, by then I truly think that the narrative is going to be Luke Fickell's fighting for his job, even though I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case.
From the Wisconsin fans that I know who follow it really closely, it would have to be a disastrous season for him to get fired this year, something like 3 wins. If they finished 5-7, I think he's very safe. It's just interesting. It's an interesting team, Wisconsin, this year. Just a lot of circumstances. And I feel like it's a game that you could overlook as a team. They could be coming into that game with a pretty bad record, but they're probably better than their record. So you got to be ready to play that game.
So I'm curious. I was nervous about whether you would think that Illinois was going to beat Indiana or not, but ultimately you do think they're going to be victorious in that game.
Yeah.
Do you have any reasons behind that?
So I kind of came down to the Duke game and the Indiana game. I felt like we're going to lose one of those games, but we're going to win one of them too. So it was kind of like I guess I went with the Duke being the loss because it's a long travel to get out there. We typically don't do that well in those situations. Most college teams don't do great in those situations. Early in the season, I do think they're a plucky group. You mentioned, is it Daniel Mensah? I can't remember his first name, but Mensah, the quarterback. Yeah. Right. He's really good too. So I just don't think that's going to be an easy one. And it's probably going to be one of those sleepy 11 a.m. games, where we're in a different time zone and nothing just feels right. So I feel much better traveling to Bloomington. Not that either place is necessarily a intimidating environment, but I think Bloomington probably will be this year.
Do you think that if Illinois does lose that Duke game, the luster off that Indiana game is going to be off a little bit? What I'm afraid of, and again, you and I will kind of understand being fans for so long, is that this Illini football fan base is kind of a fickle bunch. And, I'm afraid that an early season loss, in particular like a week 2, because you and I may know that Duke is a pretty good football team, but Duke doesn't have a reputation of being a very good football team. And so the average college football viewer who sees Illinois losing week 2 to Duke might be like, okay, these guys were not worth my time. All of a sudden, the excitement level goes down. Does that worry you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Illini fans are pretty fickle. They get their hopes up, and then it doesn't take much to destroy those hopes. And then you got to put put in all this sweat equity to get them back and get them back and get them back. And then they come back and same thing, like rinse and repeat. So, yeah, I think that there's danger of that. If Illinois beats Duke and goes into the Indiana game undefeated, and if Indiana's undefeated, that feels like one of those games that back in the day would have been ESPN game day. I'm not sure that'll happen anymore because of the changing landscape in college football. But
yeah, I mean, you know that if it can happen, if as soon as Bret beats Duke, or if that were to happen, Bret and Curt Cignetti, like, they're not shy. They will start calling the people that they need to call. Every press conference, they're going to be talking about how big of a matchup this is in order to get the biggest spot available on TV. Illinois, Indiana, in particular, we know game day's never been to Champaign, maybe because of the relationship between ESPN and the Big Ten. ESPN might just think, okay, you know what? We're going to go our separate ways. Let's just knock it out in Champaign one time before we really go our separate ways. So I'm kind of amped up for that. I'm just curious, before we do go on your pod, again, please download his podcast, Eyes on Big Podcast, one of my favorites. One of the OGs in this space, I think it's fair to say, when it comes to the Big Ten Conference. Who did you have winning the Big Ten?
I went with Penn State winning overall. I had Ohio State at third and Oregon at second.
Okay, interesting. So you think that James Franklin can get over that hump? And
well, yeah, I mean, that's obviously, that's a thing. Franklin not being able to win the big games. And do I feel great about it? Anytime I make these predictions on every single Big Ten game, by the way, for every team, there's always some that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I feel good about that. So I feel okay about Penn State. I don't love it, though. I could easily see it being Ohio State or even Oregon.
It's funny. I said this on a different show earlier. Like, Penn State's both the easiest and riskiest pick that one can make at this point. I mean, they've got so much talent coming back. They've got a star quarterback coming back. They've got a very good coach. But at the same time, when that big game happens, when those lights are the brightest, we have questions about that quarterback. We have questions about that head coach. So today, or at least this season, I think is going to be a good litmus test to see just what the ceiling of this Penn State program is going to be. Curt, thank you so much again for coming on. For the few listeners and watchers on the show who don't know where you do your work, please, would you mind letting them know?
Yeah, sure. So since 2018, I've been one of the co-hosts of the Eyes on Big podcast. We podcast on Big Ten football only, no other sports. Sorry, Illini basketball fans. We just focus on football. But we do our best to spend equal amounts of time on every single Big Ten team. That was kind of the genesis of our podcast. I was always disappointed with national coverage of the Big Ten because they only talked about the 3 or 4 teams at the top, and they would never go drill any deeper than that. So I wanted to change that and create content for the rest of the conference. So my name's Big Curt, and then I host it with Jeffrey the Greek, Eyes on Big Podcast.
2 friends of the show. Curt, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we'll get you back on soon enough, as soon as the season gets rolling.
Anytime. Let me know, man.
Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might have the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. And you can even read the real customer reviews right on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head on over to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. And welcome back to Locked On Illini. We do have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for helping us out. Before I let you go today, I did want to mention the Illini soccer women's team is now 3-0. That's right. Izzy Lee has yet another shutout, allowing no goals against Boston College. And Sarah Foley had one of the most incredible goals you're ever going to see. Like, so much so, it's not just me saying it. It was actually on ESPN's top 10 on Monday evening as one of the top plays of the entire day. So if you haven't watched that, please go on your favorite social media, go on YouTube. It's all over the feeds. It was an incredible goal, an incredible shot. And the Illini women's soccer team is now 3-0 on the season. A great start to the new head coach's career. We're going to continue to cover that and more. We're going to continue to cover both Illini women's soccer, basketball, all that. If Illinois plays a certain sport, I'm going to try to do my best to cover it, because I know the majority of you like your football and basketball, but there's still some segments of you, that I think students of all athletics do deserve some sort of recognition. Also, Bret Bielema did have a press conference on Monday. It's game week, of course, where he does these essentially every Monday from here on out. And he did say that play on Friday, huge matchup for Illinois, of course, just to kick off the season. But he did say that if there's any issues at practice on Tuesday or Wednesday, that they'll at least keep an eye on JC. So that's just something of note. Bret had a lot to say during this press conference, so I'll probably go over it in another episode, maybe tomorrow or Thursday, but definitely watch that if you get a chance. He had a couple clips about Brad Underwood, which I also absolutely enjoyed. Congratulations again to the two members of the Discord who won tickets to Friday's game against Western Illinois. Again, if you want your opportunity to have a chance to go to an Illini game for absolutely free, I'm going to be giving away 2 free tickets to each and every home football game this year. All you have to do is find the link in the description of our Discord. Join us. We've got over 300 of us discussing Illini sports, professional sports, life, everything, all day, every day. We would love to add you to this absolutely burgeoning and growing community that we have here. That's going to just about wrap it up for this edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Send me a message, talkillini@gmail.com, or find me on your favorite social media. I would love to hear any feedback you might just have. Again, a lot of content for you this week. It's a simple matter of how much I can get in front of your faces before we kick off the season. Almost at 3,500 subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please, that's all I ask. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like this video and send it to any other Illini fans in your life who might also enjoy this content. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.